The little girl's drawing showed 3 figures: herself, her mother, and a man twice their size who didn't raise his fists. The Mafia boss stared at it, and for the first time in 20 years, his hands shook. In a city where power is measured in fear and mercy is a weakness that gets you killed, one man was about to discover that the bravest thing he'd ever do wasn't pulling a trigger. It was kneeling down to a 3-year-old's level and proving that not all big men hurt. Now let's see how 1 gunshot wound and 1 terrified child changed everything. The fluorescent lights of Chicago Memorial's emergency department buzzed like dying wasps. Isabel. Santos moved through the controlled chaos with the efficiency of someone who'd learned long ago that hesitation killed patience. Her scrubs were spattered with someone else's blood, a car accident victim from 2 hours ago. But she hadn't had time to change. The Saturday night shift in Southside was always like this. Gunshots, stabbings, overdoses, the city's violence laid bare under unforgiving light. Trauma Bay 3, incoming GSW. The call crackled through the intercom. Isabel was already moving, muscle memory guiding her hands as she snapped on fresh gloves. Gunshot wound. The 4th one tonight. She pushed through the double doors just as the paramedics wheeled in a man who didn't look like he belonged on a gurney. He was conscious, jaw clenched tight, dark eyes tracking every person in the room with the predatory awareness of someone who'd been on both sides of violence. Blood soaked through the expensive fabric of his black shirt, but he wasn't screaming, wasn't thrashing. He was silent in a way that felt more dangerous than any threat. GSW to the left shoulder, through and through, the paramedic rattled off. Vitals stable, but he's lost a lot of blood. Refused transport to county, demanded to come here. Isabel's eyes met the patient's. Most people looked away from her when they were in pain, seeking some escape from reality. This man held her gaze like he was the one assessing her. "Sir, I need you to lie still," she said, her voice steady as she cut away his shirt. The wound was clean enough. The bullet had missed the major arteries, but it needed immediate attention. "No police," he said. Not a request, a command. Isabel didn't flinch. "That's not how this works. Gunshot wounds are mandatory reports. Make it work." His voice was low, controlled despite the pain that had to be screaming through his shoulder. Behind him, 2 men in dark suits stood by the door, their presence heavy with unspoken threat. Isabel recognized the type. She'd grown up in Southside. She knew what Chicago's underworld looked like, even when it wore expensive watches. She met the patient's eyes again. "I'm going to clean and close this wound. You're going to lie still and let me work. And you're going to stop trying to intimidate me, because I've got 3 other patients bleeding out tonight and you're not special." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe irritation. But he nodded once. Isabel worked in silence, her hands sure and steady as she irrigated the wound, her mind compartmentalizing the way she'd learned to do. This was just another body, just another injury. It didn't matter that his associates were probably armed. Didn't matter that he was clearly someone important in whatever criminal hierarchy ran these streets. "You're not afraid," he said after a long moment, his voice quieter now. Isabel didn't look up from her work. "I stopped being afraid of men a long time ago." The truth of it sat between them, sharp and unexpected. She felt his eyes on her face, studying her with new interest, but she focused on closing the wound with careful sutures. When she finally stepped back, wrapping his shoulder in clean gauze, she allowed herself to meet his gaze again. "You'll need antibiotics. The wound is clean, but infection is always a risk. Come back in 5 days to have the stitches checked, or see your own doctor." She stripped off her gloves. "And next time someone shoots you, maybe reconsider your life choices." His lips quirked, not quite a smile. "What's your name?" "Nurse Santos," she said flatly. "That's all you need to know." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. Thank you. Isabel paused. Men like him didn't say thank you. She glanced back, found him still watching her with those dark, unreadable eyes. Just doing my job, she said, and walked out before he could say anything else. 4 days later, Isabel was folding laundry in her cramped apartment when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Garrett had called from blocked numbers before, voice slurred with whiskey and threats. But something made her pick up. Ms. Santos. A woman's voice, professional. This is Patricia from Bright Futures Daycare. We need you to come pick up Emma. There's been an incident. Isabel's stomach dropped. Is she hurt? No, she's fine physically, but she bit another child, hard enough to break skin. The 3rd time this month. Isabel closed her eyes, pinched the bridge of her nose. I'll be there in 15 minutes. She found Emma sitting alone in the director's office, small, and hunched in a chair too big for her 3-year-old frame. Her daughter's dark curls were tangled, her Finding Nemo shirt wrinkled. When she saw Isabel, her bottom lip trembled. Mommy. Isabel knelt down, pulled Emma into her arms. The little girl buried her face in Isabel's shoulder, and Isabel felt the familiar ache of helplessness. This was what Garrett had done. This was the inheritance of violence he'd left in their daughter's small body. The other child tried to take Emma's toy, the director explained, her tone carefully neutral. Emma reacted defensively. This is becoming a pattern, Ms. Santos. We're concerned. I know. Isabel's voice was tight. I'm working on it. She's starting therapy next week. Therapy she could barely afford, even with her hospital insurance. But Emma needed it. Needed something Isabel couldn't give her on her own. The director's expression softened. I understand this is difficult, but we have to consider the safety of all our children. If this happens again... It won't, Isabel said, though she had no idea how to make that promise true. She lifted Emma into her arms, felt her daughter's legs wrap around her waist. Thank you for calling me. Outside, the November wind cut through Isabel's thin jacket. Emma shivered against her, and Isabel walked faster toward the bus stop, her mind racing through calculations she'd done 1,000 times. Rent, utilities, food, daycare, the therapy co-pays, the restraining order that was just paper, useless against a man like Garrett. She'd left him 8 months ago, after he'd thrown a glass that shattered against the wall 6 inches from Emma's head. She'd packed one suitcase while he was passed out drunk, taken Emma, and run. Changed her number. Filed for divorce and sole custody. Moved 3 times trying to stay hidden. But Garrett had military, training, and friends in low places. He'd find her eventually. Men like him always did. Mommy? Emma's voice was small against Isabel's neck. Am I bad? No, baby. Isabel's throat tightened. You're not bad. You're learning. We're both learning. She didn't know then that 4 blocks away, a man with a fresh scar on his shoulder was receiving information from a contact in the DMV. Didn't know that her ex-husband had just obtained her new address. Didn't know that in 72 hours, everything would change. All she knew was the weight of her daughter in her arms, the cold wind on her face, and the exhausting arithmetic of survival. The bus came. She climbed on. Emma fell asleep against her shoulder, one small hand fisted in Isabel's shirt. And somewhere across the city, in an office where expensive whiskey sat untouched on the desk, Dante Reyes studied a photograph of a nurse who hadn't trembled when she'd looked him in the eye. He told himself it was just curiosity, just appreciation for someone who'd shown professional competence under pressure. He didn't yet know that lies we tell ourselves are always the most dangerous kind. Isabel's apartment was on the 4th floor of a building with no elevator, and windows that rattled when the wind blew hard. The radiator clanked but never produced enough heat, so she kept extra blankets piled on Emma's bed and wore 2 sweaters layered over her scrubs when she came home from shifts. It was barely a home, but it was theirs, safe, anonymous. Until the knock came at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Isabel froze in the kitchen, dish soap still on her hands. Emma was already asleep in the tiny bedroom they shared, her breathing soft and even behind the half-closed door. No one knocked at 9 p.m. Not neighbors, not delivery drivers, not anyone who meant well. She moved silently to the door, checked the peephole. A man stood in the dim hallway. Dark suit, broad shoulders, the kind of stillness that came from complete confidence. It took her a moment to place him. The expensive clothes were different from the blood-soaked shirt, the lighting better than the harsh fluorescence of the ER. But then she recognized the line of his jaw, the intensity of his dark eyes. The gunshot patient. The one who'd commanded her to not report him. Isabel's pulse kicked up, but she kept her voice level when she opened the door just wide enough to speak through the chain lock. This is a violation of patient privacy. How did you get my address? Mrs. Santos. His voice was as controlled as she remembered. I need to talk to you. No, you need to leave before I call the police. Your ex-husband knows where you live. The words hit like a physical blow. Isabel's hand tightened on the doorframe, her knuckles white. What? Garrett Mitchell, former Army Ranger, discharged for medical reasons that were actually assault charges his CO buried. Currently living in Naperville, working private security. He obtained your address 3 days ago through a contact at the DMV named Derek Price, who owes him money and access to the database. Each detail was a nail in a coffin Isabel had been trying to keep sealed. She couldn't breathe properly. You have about 20 minutes before he gets here, Dante said. Maybe less. I have 2 cars downstairs. You can either come with me now, or you can wait and explain to your daughter why Daddy's breaking down the door. How do you... Isabel's voice cracked. How do you know any of this? Because I have people who tell me things. He leaned slightly closer, his voice dropping. And because 4 days ago, you saved my life without asking questions. I'm returning the favor. But we don't have time for you to debate it. Behind her, Emma stirred. A small sound, confused and sleepy. Mommy? Isabel's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed at her not to trust this man, not to get into a car with someone who clearly operated outside the law. But those same instincts had kept her alive this long. And right now, they were screaming something else. Run. Let me get my daughter. Her hands shook as she unlocked the chain. And if you're lying, I'm not. She believed him. God help her, she believed him. Isabel moved fast, throwing essentials into a backpack with practiced efficiency. Emma's medication, both their documents, the emergency cash she kept hidden in a tampon box. Emma was sitting up in bed, rubbing her eyes, confused. Baby, we're going on an adventure. Isabel forced her voice to stay calm, cheerful. Remember how we talked about emergency adventures? Emma's eyes went wide. Like fire drills? Exactly like fire drills. Can you be my brave girl? Emma nodded, but her small face was pale. She'd learned too young that adventures meant danger. Isabel dressed her quickly in warm clothes, grabbed the worn stuffed rabbit Emma couldn't sleep without, and lifted her daughter into her arms. When she came back to the living room, Dante was standing exactly where she'd left him, patient and immovable. His eyes went to Emma, and something shifted in his expression. Something Isabel couldn't read. Hi, Emma said quietly, studying him with the solemn intensity of children who'd learned to measure adults by their capacity for violence. Hi, Dante said back. His voice was different now, softer. You're really big, Emma observed. Yeah. A pause. Is that scary? Emma considered this seriously. A little. That's smart, Dante said. Being careful is smart. Something in Isabel's chest cracked at the careful way he spoke to her daughter, like Emma was a person who deserved respect, rather than a problem to be managed. We need to go, Isabel said. Now. They took the back stairs. Dante moved ahead of them, one hand inside his jacket, in a way that made Isabel's skin prickle with the knowledge of what he was carrying. Outside, a black SUV idled at the curb, windows tinted, engine purring. Another man in a dark suit opened the back door. Isabel hesitated for half a heartbeat, then climbed in with Emma on her lap. Dante slid in beside them, and the car pulled away smoothly, eating up the distance between her apartment and whatever came next. Emma was silent, pressed against Isabel's chest. Isabel could feel her daughter's rabbit heart racing, could smell the baby shampoo in her hair. She tightened her arms around Emma and stared out the window at the passing streetlights, watching the south side give way to wealthier neighborhoods, then to the outskirts where houses sat behind gates and walls. Where are we going? She finally asked. Somewhere safe. Dante's eyes were on his phone, texting rapidly. Somewhere Garrett can't find you. For how long? As long as it takes. Isabel's laugh was bitter. You don't know Garrett. He doesn't give up. Neither do I. The certainty in his voice should have been comforting. Instead, it terrified her, because men who were certain they could win were the most dangerous kind. The SUV turned onto a private road, passed through a gate that opened automatically, and continued up a long driveway lined with bare trees. At the end sat a house that wasn't a house. It was a mansion, all stone and glass and modern angles, lit from within like a lantern against the dark. Isabel's stomach sank. I can't stay here. Why not? Because... She gestured helplessly at the house, at him, at the impossible distance between her world and his. Because I don't belong in a place like this. Because I don't know you. Because I can't pay you back. I'm not asking you to pay me back. Then what are you asking? Dante looked at her finally, really looked at her, and Isabel saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. It wasn't pity. It was something worse. Recognition. I'm asking you to let me keep you safe, he said quietly. That's all. Emma lifted her head from Isabel's shoulder, looked between them with those two old eyes. Is Daddy coming? The question hung in the air, sharp and terrible. No, baby, Isabel whispered. He's not. But they both knew she was lying. The house was too warm after months of Isabel's drafty apartment. Emma clung to Isabel's hand as they walked through rooms that looked like magazine spreads. High ceilings, leather furniture, art on walls that probably cost more than Isabel made in a year. A woman appeared, older, kind-faced, introducing herself as Rosa, the housekeeper. She showed them to a guest room that was bigger than Isabel's entire apartment, with an ensuite bathroom that had heated floors and a bathtub deep enough to swim in. There's clothes in the closet, Rosa said gently, her accent marking her as first generation like Isabel's own mother had been. For both of you. Mr. Reyes wasn't sure of sizes, so there's variety. If you need anything at all, press 9 on the phone. Isabel nodded numbly. Emma's hand was sweaty in hers, gripping too tight. When Rosa left, closing the door, softly behind her, Emma finally spoke. Mommy, I don't like this. I know, baby. I want to go home. I know. Isabel knelt down, cupped Emma's face in her hands. But home isn't safe right now, so we're going to stay here for a little while, okay? Just until Mommy figures things out. Is the big man going to hurt us? The question was like a knife between Isabel's ribs. No, baby. He's not going to hurt us. He's trying to help. But you always said we don't take help from strangers. You're right. I did say that. Isabel pulled Emma close, breathed in the scent of her hair. Sometimes the rules change, sweetheart. Sometimes we have to trust people we don't know yet. Even as she said it, she wondered if she was making the worst mistake of her life. Emma fell asleep eventually, curled in the center of the enormous bed, like a small island in an ocean of white sheets. Isabel sat beside her in the dark, listening to the house settle around them, and tried to figure out what the hell she'd just done. Downstairs, Dante Reyes stood at his office window, looking out at the frozen grounds of his property, and tried to figure out the same thing. He'd told himself he was repaying a debt. That was all. The nurse had treated him with competence and discretion, had refused to be intimidated, and he respected that. When his contact at the police department had flagged Garrett Mitchell's name, a violent ex with access to weapons and a grudge, Dante had simply acted. It was strategic, practical. It had nothing to do with the way she'd looked at him in the ER, unafraid and unflinching. Nothing to do with the little girl with dark curls who'd asked if he was scary, and then believed him when he said being careful was smart. Nothing to do with the memory of his own mother's face, swollen and split, promising him she'd leave next time. There was always a next time, until there wasn't. Dante's jaw tightened. He turned away from the window, poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey he wouldn't drink, and tried not to think about the last time he'd heard a woman's scream cut short in the middle of the night. He'd been 8 years old. He was 38 now, and the sound still woke him sometimes, clawing up from dreams he couldn't quite remember. Upstairs, in a room too large and too safe, Isabel Santos lay awake beside her sleeping daughter and wondered what price this protection would cost. In Naperville, Garrett Mitchell stared at the empty apartment, his face flushed with rage and alcohol, and made a phone call that would set everything in motion. And in the space between these 3 people, a story began to unspool. One that would prove that the distance between salvation and destruction is sometimes measured in a single choice, a single moment of trust, offered or withheld. Isabel had made her choice. Now she'd have to live with it. Morning came too bright through curtains Isabel hadn't closed. She woke disoriented, reaching for Emma before remembering where they were. Her daughter was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the bed with her stuffed rabbit staring at the door. "Baby, what's wrong?" "I heard footsteps," Emma whispered. "Big ones." Isabel's protective instincts flared. She pulled on the borrowed robe hanging in the closet, soft cashmere that probably cost more than her car payment, and opened the door carefully. The hallway was empty, quiet. But she smelled coffee and something else. Bacon. Emma's stomach growled audibly. They found the kitchen by following their noses. It was massive, all white marble and stainless steel, with windows overlooking a backyard covered in frost. Rosa stood at the stove, and at the island sat Dante, dressed in dark jeans and a black Henley, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when they entered. His eyes went to Emma first, then to Isabel. "Good morning." His voice was careful, neutral. "Rosa made breakfast. There's pancakes if she likes them." Emma peered around Isabel's legs, cautious but interested. "With chocolate chips?" "I can add chocolate chips," Rosa said warmly, already reaching for a bag in the pantry. Isabel's throat tightened. Emma hadn't asked for things in months, hadn't assumed she could have preferences or choices. "Say thank you," Isabel murmured. "Thank you," Emma said quietly, then looked up at Dante. "Are you going to yell if I spill?" The question landed like a grenade in the peaceful kitchen. Isabel saw Dante's jaw tighten, saw something dark flash across his face before he controlled it. "No," he said. "I'm not going to yell. You can spill all you want." Emma studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. Okay. She climbed onto a bar stool. Rosa had to help her up, and watched with solemn intensity as Rosa poured batter onto the griddle. Isabel remained standing, arms crossed, feeling out of place in this warm, expensive kitchen. Dante pushed a mug of coffee toward her. Cream and sugar are there. I'm fine. You look like you didn't sleep. I didn't. She met his eyes. I don't know what you want from us. I don't know what staying here costs, and I don't do well with uncertainty. It doesn't cost anything. Everything costs something. Dante set down his tablet. What do you think I want? Isabel glanced at Emma, who was absorbed in watching Rosa flip pancakes. She lowered her voice. I don't know. That's the problem. Men like you don't just help people out of kindness. Men like me. You know what you are. Say it. The challenge in his voice made her bristle. You're a criminal. You run, whatever it is you run. Protection, probably. Money laundering. I don't know the specifics and I don't want to. But I know you're dangerous. And I know putting my daughter in proximity to that is... Her voice cracked. Is maybe the worst decision I've ever made. Then why did you come? Because the alternative was worse. The words tasted like defeat. Dante was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to think I'm lying, but I'm not. I don't want anything from you. Not your body, not your loyalty, not your silence. You're here because I have the resources to keep you safe, and Garrett doesn't know this place exists. That's it. Why? Why what? Why do you care? Isabel's hands tightened around the coffee mug. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything beyond maybe a thank you for stitching up your shoulder. So why go to all this trouble? Dante looked at Emma, who was now eating pancakes with intense concentration, chocolate smeared on her cheek. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. Because I know what it's like when no one stops it. When everyone looks away and pretends they don't hear the screaming. The raw honesty in his words made Isabel's chest ache. She wanted to ask what he meant, whose screaming he'd heard, but Emma chose that moment to look up. These are good, she announced. Better than Mommy's. Hey, Isabel protested weakly. My pancakes are great. These are better. Emma was matter-of-fact about it. Then, to Dante, Can I have more? You can have as many as you want, he said. Rosa served another pancake, and Emma dug in with the single-minded focus of a child who'd learned food wasn't always guaranteed. Isabel watched her daughter eat, watched the way Dante's eyes tracked Emma's every movement with something that looked almost like pain, and felt the first crack in her armor. Maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe this really was just about keeping them safe. Or maybe she was being naive, and the bill would come due later. 3 days passed in a strange, suspended reality. Isabel called in sick to work, knowing she couldn't risk going back to her old routine. Emma was too scared to go back to daycare, and Isabel didn't push it. They existed in Dante's house like ghosts, occupying space, but not quite belonging. Emma slowly emerged from her shell, exploring the house with cautious curiosity. She found the library and asked Rosa to read to her. She discovered the heated floors in the bathroom and lay on them like a cat. She drew pictures at the kitchen table while Isabel watched, hyper-vigilant. Dante was often gone during the day, returning late at night, but when he was home, he was careful around Emma. He didn't make sudden movements. He kept his voice low. He asked before entering rooms, and Emma, slowly, stopped flinching. On the 4th night, Isabel found him in the library, reading in a leather chair by the window. She'd put Emma to bed and couldn't sleep herself, had wandered the house restlessly until she'd seen the light under the door. Sorry, she said, I didn't mean to interrupt. You're not. He closed the book. Can't sleep? Never can. She hovered in the doorway, uncertain. Can I ask you something? Yeah. Earlier, when Emma asked if you'd yell, you said you know what it's like when no one stops it. What did you mean? Dante's expression shuddered. It's not important. It is to me. Isabel stepped into the room. You know everything about me. You know about Garrett, about why we're running. I don't know anything about you except that you're dangerous and you're keeping us safe. It doesn't feel balanced. It's not supposed to be balanced. Why not? He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father drank. When he drank, he got mean. When he got mean, my mother paid for it. And I was too small to stop him, so I just listened. From my room, every time. The words were flat, emotionless, but Isabel heard the weight beneath them. How old were you? 5 when it started, 8 when it ended. Ended how? She left. Finally. His jaw tightened. He found her 3 days later. Broke her collarbone, her jaw, 4 ribs. She went into a coma. Died 2 weeks later without waking up. Isabel's breath caught. Dante, I'm not telling you this for sympathy. His eyes met hers, dark and hard. I'm telling you, because you asked why I'm doing this. That's why. Because I heard my mother scream for help and no one came. Not neighbors, not family, not the cops she called 6 times. No one. And I swore when I was old enough, strong enough, I'd never let it happen again. Not where I could stop it. The silence stretched between them, heavy with shared understanding. The men you... Isabel hesitated. The people you hurt in your... work. How is that different? They choose the life. They know the risks. Dante's voice was hard. Women like you, kids like Emma, you didn't choose anything. You're just trying to survive. That's the difference. Isabel wanted to argue, wanted to point out the flaws in his moral calculus, but she was too tired. And maybe part of her understood, in a way she didn't want to examine too closely. Thank you, she said finally, for telling me. He nodded once, then picked up his book again. Dismissed. But Isabel saw his hands, saw the way. They trembled slightly before he steadied them, saw the cost of sharing that story. She went back upstairs, checked on Emma, still sleeping, rabbit clutched to her chest, and lay down in the too-soft bed. For the first time since they'd arrived, she slept through the night. 2 weeks in, Emma laughed. It was a small sound, startled out of her when Rosa's cat, an ancient tabby named Gordito, jumped onto her lap while she was coloring. But it was real, unguarded, the laugh of a child who'd forgotten to be afraid. Isabel heard it from the doorway and had to turn away, tears burning her eyes. Dante appeared beside her, quiet, as always. She's doing better. She shouldn't have to do better. Isabel's voice was tight. She's 3. She should just be. Yeah. A pause. I found someone, a therapist who specializes in childhood trauma. She runs play therapy groups, art therapy, that kind of thing. If you're interested. Isabel turned to look at him. How much does that cost? It's covered. By what insurance? We're not... She stopped. You're paying for it. Does it matter? Yes, it matters. Her voice rose and she forced it back down, aware of Emma in the next room. I can't keep taking from you. I can't owe you. You don't owe me anything. Dante's voice was firm. This isn't a transaction. Emma needs help. I can provide it. That's all. It's not all. Isabel's hands clenched into fists. Nothing is ever just help. There's always expectations. Always. Strings. Not with me. You say that now. Isabel. He caught her arm gently, waited until she met his eyes. I know you've been trained to believe that accepting help means giving up power, that needing someone makes you weak. But Emma needs this, and you can't help her if you won't let anyone help you. The truth of it was a punch to the chest. Isabel pulled her arm free, wrapped it around herself. I hate this. I hate needing you. I know. I hate that you're right. I know that too. His voice was softer now. The therapist's name is Dr. Raina Chen. She has openings on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. I can have Marcus drive you, or you can take one of the cars yourself. Your choice. Always giving her choice, always asking permission. It made it harder to hate him. Tuesday, Isabel said finally. We'll try Tuesday. Dr. Chen's office was in a converted brownstone in Lincoln Park, warm and colorful, nothing like the sterile medical buildings Isabel associated with. Healthcare. The waiting room had toys, books, soft lighting. Emma immediately gravitated toward a dollhouse in the corner. You must be Isabel and Emma. Dr. Chen was petite, early 40s, with kind eyes behind tortoiseshell glasses. I'm Raina. Emma, do you like dollhouses? Emma nodded shyly. That one's magic. The people who live there are very happy. Want to play while I talk to your mom for a minute? Emma looked to Isabel for permission. Isabel nodded, and Emma settled in front of the dollhouse, already absorbed. Dr. Chen led Isabel to a small office. Dante mentioned Emma's been through some trauma. Can you tell me what I'm working with? Isabel had practiced this, had rehearsed how to explain without falling apart. Her father was abusive, emotionally, physically. He never hit her directly, but she saw him hurt me. Multiple times. We left 8 months ago, but she's having trouble at daycare. Biting other children, scratching. She gets aggressive when she feels cornered. Dr. Chen nodded, taking notes. That's a normal trauma response. She's learned that violence is how you protect yourself when you're scared. We can help her unlearn that, give her other tools. But it'll take time. Probably months, maybe longer. I understand. Isabel's throat was tight. Whatever she needs. And you? Dr. Chen's eyes were too knowing. Who's helping you? I'm fine. You're a single mother living in a stranger's house because your ex-husband is hunting you. You're not fine. The bluntness was unexpected. Isabel's careful composure cracked. I don't have time to not be fine. That's not how trauma works. Dr. Chen's voice was gentle, but firm. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you don't deal with your own stuff, Emma will absorb it. Kids are sponges. They feel everything. I know that. Isabel's voice broke. I know, but I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to stop being afraid all the time. I don't know how to trust anyone, and I definitely don't know how to accept help from a man who... She stopped. From Dante? Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. He called me himself, explained the situation, said he wanted the best therapist for childhood trauma in Chicago, money no object. That's not typical behavior for someone in his line of work. I don't understand why he's doing this. Have you asked him? He said it's because he knows what it's like when no one stops it. Isabel's hands twisted in her lap. His mother was killed by his father when he was 8. He was too small to protect her. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. That explains a lot. Does it? Isabel's laugh was bitter. He's a criminal. He hurts people for a living. How is he any different from Garrett? Is he? The question hung there. Isabel thought about Dante kneeling to Emma's level, his voice soft. Thought about the way he always asked before entering rooms, the way he gave her choices, the way he'd shared his worst memory without asking for anything in return. "I don't know," she whispered. "Maybe that's what you need to figure out." They left an hour later, Emma clutching a small painting she'd made. Bright colors, abstract shapes, nothing recognizable. But she was proud of it, and Isabel taped it to the refrigerator when they got back to the house. Dante came home late that night, as usual. Isabel was in the kitchen making tea when he appeared in the doorway, his jacket dusted with snow. "How was the session?" he asked. "Good." Emma liked Dr. Chen. Isabel poured hot water over a tea bag. "She wants to go back Thursday." "That's good. Dr. Chen mentioned you called her directly." Dante's expression didn't change. "I wanted to make sure she was the right fit." "You could have asked me first." "Would you have let me?" "No. That's why I didn't ask." He moved into the kitchen, grabbed a glass from the cabinet. "You would have spent 3 weeks researching therapists, agonizing over cost, convincing yourself Emma could wait. She can't wait. You don't get to make decisions about my daughter. I'm not making decisions. I'm providing resources. You still choose whether to use them." He filled the glass with water, drank. "Dr. Chen said Emma's going to need months of therapy, maybe longer. I'm telling you now, I'll pay for all of it. No strings, no expectations. When you're ready to leave, when you want to leave, you can. The therapy continues regardless." Isabel stared at him. "Why are you doing this?" "I told you." "No. The real reason." She set down her tea. "Not the story about your mother, not the guilt or the debt or whatever you think you owe me. Why do you care so much about a woman you don't know and a child who isn't yours?" Dante was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. "Because when Emma asked if I was scary, and I said being careful was smart, she believed me. She trusted me to tell her the truth. And I realized no one's ever trusted me with anything that mattered. Everyone in my life either fears me or uses me. But you two, you're just trying to survive. And maybe keeping you safe is the only good thing I've done in 20 years. The honesty of it stole Isabel's breath. She saw him clearly then. Not the dangerous man in the expensive house, but the 8-year-old boy who'd listened to his mother scream and been too small to save her. "We're not your redemption," she said softly. "We can't fix what happened to you." "I know." He set down the glass. "But maybe you can show me there's something worth protecting in this world besides money and power." Isabel wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her walls, her distance, her certainty that accepting his help was dangerous. But she was so tired of fighting alone. "Okay," she said finally. "Okay, we stay, for now, until we figure out what to do about Garrett. But I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If this goes wrong, if he finds us, if people get hurt because of me, you let none us go. No arguing, no trying to protect us. You just let us disappear." Dante's jaw tightened. "That's not going to happen. Promise me anyway." He held her gaze for a long moment. Then, "I promise." They both knew he was lying. But sometimes the lies we need to hear are the ones that let us sleep at night. The call came at 2 a.m. Isabel woke to her phone buzzing on the nightstand, Garrett's name flashing on the screen. She'd never blocked his number, needed to know when he was reaching out, needed that advance warning. Her hand shook as she answered. "I know where you are." His voice was slurred, drunk. "I know who you're with." Isabel's blood turned to ice. "Garrett, you think you can whore yourself to some mafioso and I'll just let you keep my daughter? That's my kid, Isabel. Mine, not his. I'm not," she forced her voice steady, "I'm not with anyone. And Emma is safe. That's all that matters." Safe? His laugh was cruel. You're living with a criminal. A murderer. You think that's safe for my daughter? Safer than living with you. The silence that followed was deadly. Then, I'm coming for her, and when I do, you won't stop me. You never could. The line went dead. Isabel sat in the dark, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Emma was asleep beside her, oblivious. Isabel pulled the blankets higher, tucked them around her daughter's small body, and tried to remember how to breathe. A soft knock at the door. Dante's voice, quiet. Isabel? She didn't answer. Couldn't. The door opened. Dante was in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair disheveled from sleep. He must have heard her phone. Must have been listening. What did he say? Dante asked. He knows we're here. Isabel's voice was barely a whisper. He knows about you. He's coming. Let him come. The certainty in Dante's voice should have been comforting. Instead, it terrified her. Because she knew what men like him did to threats. And she knew that Emma couldn't watch another man die, couldn't absorb more violence into her small body. You can't kill him, Isabel said. I know that's what you're thinking. I know that's how you solve problems. But Emma has already lost so much. If she finds out you... Her voice broke. She can't know that. She can't think violence is the answer. It's what made her the way she is. Dante moved closer, sat on the edge of the bed. Then what do you want me to do? I don't know. Isabel's tears finally spilled over. I don't know. But there has to be another way. There is. His voice was quiet. I can make him disappear. Not kill him. Just relocate him. Far enough that he can't come back. That's not legal. Neither is anything else I do. Isabel laughed, choked and bitter. This is insane. I'm sitting here debating the ethics of kidnapping my ex-husband with a mobster. This is not my life. It is now. Dante's voice was gentle. And I'm sorry for that. But we have to deal with what is, not what should be. So tell me, do you want me to handle Garrett? Or do you want to keep running? Isabel looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully with her rabbit clutched to her chest. Thought about the therapy, the progress, the tentative trust her daughter was rebuilding. Thought about the daycare incidents, the way Emma bit and scratched when she felt trapped. If they ran again, Emma would break. Isabel knew it with sick certainty. Handle it, she whispered, but not with violence. Please, find another way. I will. Dante stood. I promise. This time, Isabel believed him. The next morning, Emma was quieter than usual. She picked at her pancakes, her small face troubled. Baby, what's wrong? Isabel asked. I had a bad dream. Emma's voice was small. Daddy was here. He was yelling. Isabel's stomach dropped. It was just a dream, sweetheart. Are you sure? Emma's eyes were too old, too knowing. Because sometimes my dreams come true. Isabel pulled her daughter onto her lap, held her tight. Even if Daddy came, he can't get in here. This house is safe. The people here won't let anything happen to us. Emma looked across the kitchen to where Dante stood by the coffee maker, his back to them. Promise? Dante turned, met Emma's gaze. I promise. No one's going to hurt you or your mom. Not while you're here. Emma studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Some tension eased from her small shoulders. Okay, I believe you. And Isabel realized, with a jolt, that her daughter trusted this man more than she'd ever trusted Garrett. Emma felt safer with a stranger who controlled his voice than with her own father who'd controlled through fear. Later, while Emma was at therapy, Dante made a call. Isabel didn't hear the conversation, but she saw him afterward, his expression grim. I have a contact. Defense attorney who specializes in domestic violence cases. She owes me a favor. If we can get Garrett to admit his intentions on tape, admitting he plans to violate the restraining order, take Emma by force, she can use it to get you permanent sole custody. He'd be ordered to stay away permanently. How do we get him to admit that? You meet with him, somewhere public, wear a wire, get him talking. He won't fall for that. He will if he's desperate enough, if he thinks you're giving up coming back. Dante's eyes were dark. He wants to win. Men like him always do. Use that. The idea of seeing Garrett again made Isabel's skin crawl. But it was better than violence. Better than teaching Emma that problems were solved with fists and guns. Okay, she said. When? 3 days later, Isabel sat in a coffee shop in Lincoln Park, a wire taped under her shirt, and waited for her ex-husband to arrive. Dante was outside in a car with Marcus, listening through an earpiece. 2 other men she didn't know were positioned nearby, inconspicuous. She'd been briefed. Stay calm, don't provoke him, guide the conversation toward Emma, get him to make threats. When Garrett walked in, Isabel's hand started shaking. He looked older than she remembered, thinner, harder, his eyes bloodshot from too much drinking. But he smiled when he saw her, that same charming smile that had fooled her once. Isabel. He slid into the booth across from her. You look good. What do you want, Garrett? To talk, that's all. He spread his hands. I've been thinking. About us. About Emma. I made mistakes. I know that. But we're a family. We can work through this. No, we can't. His smile tightened. You don't mean that. You're just scared. That mobster's got you confused, making you think you need him. But you don't. You need me. I'm Emma's father. You were Emma's father. Isabel's voice was steady despite the fear crawling up her spine. You gave that up when you threw a glass at her head. I was drunk. I didn't mean... You're always drunk. And you always mean it. She leaned forward. Why are you really here? What do you want? Garrett's expression hardened. I want my daughter back. I want you to stop playing house with a criminal and come home where you belong. Emma is never coming back to you. Yes, she is. His voice dropped. Dangerous. You think a piece of paper protects you? I have friends, Isabel. Friends who can make restraining orders disappear. Friends who can make you disappear. You have 2 choices. Come back willingly, or I take Emma anyway. Either way, she's coming home with me. There it was. The threat, clear and recorded. Isabel's heart pounded, but she kept her face calm. You'd really hurt me? In front of Emma? I'd do whatever it takes. Garrett's eyes were cold. She's my daughter, and you're my wife. You don't get to leave me. We're divorced. Doesn't matter. You're still mine. He leaned closer. And when I come for you, and I will come for you, that Mafia boyfriend of yours won't stop me. No one stops me. Isabel stood, her legs shaking. You're wrong. Someone will stop you. Because I'm not yours anymore. I never was. She walked out without looking back, heard Garrett shouting behind her, and kept walking. Dante's car pulled up. She climbed in, and he handed her a phone showing the recording. Got it. Every word. Isabel's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Is it enough? It's enough. His voice was grim. My attorney will file for an emergency custody hearing. With this recording and the police reports from before, he'll never get near Emma again. Promise me he'll stay away. He will. Dante's voice was hard. I promise. And this time, Isabel knew he'd keep that promise, no matter what it took. The custody hearing happened fast. Dante's attorney had connections, pulled strings, filed emergency motions that moved through the system with unnatural speed. Isabel knew it was his influence. Knew money and power were greasing wheels that should have turned slower. She should have felt guilty about it. She didn't. Garrett showed up to court disheveled, reeking of alcohol. His own attorney looked defeated before the hearing even started. When the judge played the recording, Garrett's voice clear and threatening, admitting he planned to violate the restraining order, take Emma by force. It was over. Full sole custody granted to Ms. Santos, the judge declared. Mr. Mitchell is ordered to surrender all parental rights. Restraining order extended permanently. Any contact with the minor child or Ms. Santos will result in immediate arrest and criminal charges. Garrett lunged from his seat, shouting, but bailiffs restrained him. Isabel sat frozen, unable to believe it was real, that she'd won, that Emma was truly safe. Outside the courthouse, Dante was waiting by the car. "It's done," he said simply. "He'll come anyway." Isabel's voice was flat. "You heard him. He doesn't care about court orders." "I know." Dante's jaw tightened. "That's why I have people watching him, 24/7. The moment he gets within a mile of you, I'll know." "And then what?" "Then I handle it. Without violence." "I'll do what's necessary." His eyes met hers. "But I won't let Emma see it. I promise you that." It was the best she could hope for. They celebrated Emma's 4th birthday 2 weeks later. Rosa made a cake with pink frosting and sprinkles. Dante bought presents, too many, extravagant, including a dollhouse like the one in Dr. Chen's office and a small easel for painting. Emma's eyes went wide when she saw them. "Are these all for me?" "All for you," Dante said. Emma threw, her arms around his legs, her small body pressed against him. "Thank you, Mr. Dante." Isabel watched Dante's face transform, something raw and vulnerable crossing his features before he carefully, gently patted Emma's back. "You're welcome, little one." That night, after Emma fell asleep clutching her new stuffed bear, Isabel found Dante on the back patio, staring at the frozen grounds. "You didn't have to do all that," she said. "I wanted to." "She's getting attached to you." Isabel's voice was quiet. "When we leave, it's going to hurt her. Then don't leave." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. "We can't stay here forever," Isabel said. "This isn't our life. It's yours." "It could be yours." "Dante, I know what you're going to say." He turned to face her. "That you don't belong here. That you need to stand on your own. That accepting help is weakness. But what if you're wrong? What if asking for help is actually the strongest thing you can do?" "I'm not in love. With you." The words came out harsher than Isabel intended. "I'm grateful. I'm starting to trust you. But that's not the same thing as love." "I know." His voice was soft. "But Emma loves this place. She's healing here. She laughs now, did you notice? Actually laughs. And you sleep through the night. I hear you. Or I don't hear you, which is the point. You're not pacing at 3 a.m. anymore. You're not jumping at every sound." Isabel's throat tightened because he was right. She had been. Healing. They both had. "What happens when Garrett comes?" she asked. "Because he will come. Men like him don't stop." "I told you, I'll handle it." "That's not an answer." Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then, "There's a job opening at County General. Better hours than the ER, better pay. If you wanted it, I could put in a word." "I don't want you pulling strings for me." "It's not pulling strings. It's a reference. You're a good nurse. They'd be lucky to have you." He paused. "And if you work there, you'd be close to Dr. Chen's office. Easy to bring Emma to therapy." Isabel saw what he was doing, building a life for them, making it easy to stay. And part of her wanted it desperately. The stability, the safety, the idea that maybe they could actually have a normal life. But the other part remembered that fairy tales didn't exist, and men like Dante didn't get happy endings. "I'll think about it," she said finally. It was the most she could give him. Garrett made his move 3 days later. Isabel was walking to her car after a shift at the hospital. She'd taken Dante up on the job offer, started working at County, when someone grabbed her from behind. She started to scream, but a hand clamped over her mouth. "Did you really think a piece of paper would stop me?" Garrett's breath was hot and rancid against her ear. "You're coming with me, and then we're getting Emma." Isabel bit down hard on his hand. He yelped, his grip loosening, and she twisted away, running. But Garrett was faster, trained. He caught her, slammed her against a car. Pain exploded through her shoulder. "You bitch." Then he was gone, ripped away from her by a force Isabel didn't immediately see. Dante. He'd thrown Garrett against the pavement with controlled violence, one knee on his back, arm twisted at a painful angle. Marcus appeared from nowhere, phone already out, camera recording. "Say it again." Dante's voice was deadly quiet. "Say what you were going to do." "Fuck you." Dante twisted the arm harder. Garrett screamed, "Say it again." "I was going to take Emma." Garrett's voice was high with pain. "She's my daughter. I have a right." "You have no rights." Dante's voice was cold. "You lost them in court, but you just violated a restraining order and assaulted her mother. That's 5 years minimum. More if I tell the DA everything I know about your side job selling illegal weapons." Garrett's face went white. "You can't prove?" "I can prove everything." Dante looked at Marcus. "Call the police. Tell them we have a suspect in custody for assault and violation of a protective order." "No!" Garrett struggled, but Dante held him effortlessly. "You can't do this. She's my daughter." "She was your daughter." Dante's voice was flat. "You made your choice. Now you live with it." The police arrived within minutes. Isabel gave her statement, shaking but composed. They arrested Garrett, who screamed threats all the way to the patrol car. The recording from Marcus's phone was submitted as evidence. When it was over, Dante turned to Isabel. "Are you hurt?" "My shoulder." She touched it gingerly. "But I'm okay." "You're not okay." His voice was rough. "You're trembling." "I'm fine." "Stop saying you're fine when you're not." The outburst surprised both of them. Dante's jaw clenched. "I'm sorry. When Marcus called and said Garrett had you, He stopped, shook his head. "I thought I was too late. Again." Isabel understood then, saw the 8-year-old boy who'd been too small to save his mother, now a man terrified of failing again. "You weren't too late," she said softly. "You saved me. I should have seen it coming. Should have had someone with you. Dante." She touched his arm. "You can't protect us from everything. You can't control the whole world. Sometimes bad things happen anyway. Not to you." His voice was fierce. "Not anymore. Not while I'm alive." And Isabel realized with sudden clarity that she wasn't grateful anymore. Wasn't just trusting him. She was falling in love with him. The thought terrified her more than Garrett ever had. 2 months later, spring arrived in Chicago like a promise kept. Isabel woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd finally started thinking of as hers. Emma's soft breathing came from the other bed. They'd moved Emma into her own room last month, decorated it with the paintings she'd made in therapy. But some nights she still crawled into Isabel's bed, and Isabel never minded. Downstairs, she found Dante already in the kitchen making coffee. He did this now, most mornings. Waited for her. They'd fallen into a routine that felt dangerously like domestic life. "Morning," he said, sliding a mug toward her. "Morning," Isabel added cream, watching him. They'd been dancing around each other since the night Garrett was arrested. Dante hadn't pushed, hadn't demanded anything, just existed beside her. Patient, present. Emma appeared in the doorway, dragging her stuffed rabbit. "Is today therapy day?" "It is." Isabel knelt down. "Are you excited?" "Yeah." Emma's smile was easier now, more frequent. "Dr. Chen said we're going to make a big painting today, a family painting." "That sounds fun, baby." Emma looked between Isabel and Dante. "Can Mr. Dante come to see my painting?" Isabel's breath caught. Dante's eyes met hers over Emma's head, questioning. "If he wants to," Isabel said carefully. "I want to," Dante said immediately. Dr. Chen's office was bright with afternoon light. Emma settled at the art table with 3 other children her age, all of them giggling as they mixed paint colors. Isabel and Dante waited in the observation room, watching through the one-way glass. "She's doing so well," Dr. Chen said, joining them. "No aggressive incidents in 6 weeks. She's learning to use her words when she's frustrated, learning that it's safe to feel angry without hurting people." "Thank you." Isabel's voice was thick. "I didn't think... I was afraid she'd never recover from what she saw. Children are resilient, but they need safe adults to show them how to process trauma." Dr. Chen looked at Dante. "You've been good for them, both of them." Dante shifted uncomfortably. "I just gave them a place to stay." "You gave them safety, consistency. A man who doesn't yell, doesn't hurt. That's not small." Dr. Chen smiled. "Emma talks about you in sessions. She calls you the big man who's nice." High praise from a 4-year-old. Through the glass, Emma was painting with intense concentration. Isabel watched her daughter, really watched her, and saw the difference. The tension was gone from her small shoulders. She laughed easily with the other kids. When one boy accidentally knocked over her paint water, she didn't bite or scratch. She just said, "It's okay," and helped him clean it up. Isabel's eyes filled with tears. Dante's hand found hers, squeezed once. She didn't pull away. They picked Emma up an hour later. She ran to them, clutching a large sheet of paper, paint still wet. "Look, I made our family." The painting showed 3 figures. A small one with brown curls, a taller one with long dark hair, and the biggest one with broad shoulders. They were holding hands. The sun was yellow in the corner, and the grass was green. "This is me," Emma pointed. "And Mommy. And Mr. Dante." Isabel's throat closed. She looked at Dante, saw his expression. Stunned, vulnerable, like he'd been punched. "It's beautiful, baby," Isabel managed. "Can we put it on the fridge?" Emma asked Dante. "Yeah." His voice was rough. "Yeah, we can put it on the fridge." In the car, Emma fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from therapy and art. Isabel stared at the painting in her lap, at the 3 connected figures. "She drew you as part of our family," Isabel said quietly. "I know." "Is that what you want? To be part of this?" Dante's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What I want doesn't matter. This is about what's best for Emma. For you." "Stop doing that." Isabel turned to face him. "Stop pretending you don't have feelings. Stop acting like you're just some guardian angel who doesn't need anything for himself. I see you, Dante. I see how you look at her, how you look at me. So just say it. Say what you want." He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "I want you to stay, both of you, not as guests, not as people I'm protecting, as—" He stopped, jaw working. "As family. Real family. The kind where you come home at night and everyone's there. Where Emma draws pictures and you put them on the fridge. Where I get to watch her grow up and maybe someday she calls me something other than Mr. Dante." "Like what?" "I don't know. Maybe just Dante. Or," he swallowed hard, "or whatever she wants to call me. I don't care about the name. I care about being there." Isabel's heart cracked open. "I'm scared. I know. I'm scared of needing you. Of Emma needing you. Of building a life with you and then I turn into Garrett?" His voice was gentle. "I won't. I can't promise I'm perfect. I can't promise I won't make mistakes. But I can promise I will never hurt you. Either of you. Not the way he did." "How can you promise that?" "Because I know what it cost my mother when my father broke that promise. I lived with that cost. And I swore I'd never make a woman feel the way she felt, trapped and terrified in her own home." He glanced at her. "You're not trapped here, Isabel. You never were. You can leave any time. Take one of the cars, take money, take whatever you need. I won't stop you. That's why I'm not leaving." The realization settled over her like peace. "Because you've never made me feel like I couldn't." 3 months later, on a Saturday morning in July, Isabel woke to the smell of pancakes. She came downstairs to find Emma sitting on the kitchen counter, helping Dante flip pancakes, while Rosa supervised with amused tolerance. Emma was giggling, chocolate chips scattered across the marble, and Dante was smiling. Actually smiling, not the controlled mask he wore for the rest of the world. "Mommy," Emma called, "we're making breakfast." "I see that." Isabel's heart felt too full. Dante looked at her over Emma's head, and something passed between them. An understanding, a promise. Later, after breakfast, Emma went to play in her room, the room that was officially hers now, full of toys and books and paintings. Isabel found Dante in his office going through papers. "Hey," she said. He looked up. "Hey. Can we talk?" "Always." Isabel closed the door behind her, suddenly nervous. "I've been thinking about what you said, about us being family." Dante set down his pen, gave her his full attention. "I don't know how to do this," Isabel said. "I don't know how to be with someone who isn't Garrett. I don't know how to trust that you won't change, won't become something else when the shine wears off. But I'm tired of being afraid, and Emma deserves to grow up seeing what healthy love looks like. So if you're serious about this, about us, then I want to try. Really try. Not as your grateful house guest, but as your—" She hesitated. "Partner," Dante offered quietly. "Yeah, partner." He stood, came around the desk. "You're sure?" "No." Isabel laughed shakily. "I'm terrified, but I'm doing it anyway, because you've shown me that asking for help isn't weakness, that needing someone doesn't make me less. You've been holding the rope while I climbed, like you said, and I'm ready to let you climb with me." Dante cupped her face in his hands, gentle as always. "I'm not going to let you fall." "I know." She leaned into his touch. "That's why I'm not scared anymore." He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious. And for the first time in years, Isabel felt safe. Not protected. She'd never needed protecting, not really. But safe. Seen. Chosen. When they pulled apart, Emma's voice came from the hallway. "Are you kissing?" They both laughed. Dante opened the door, and Emma stood there with her arms crossed, trying to look stern but failing. "Maybe," Dante said. Emma considered this. Then, "Does this mean you're staying? Forever? Dante looked at Isabel. Isabel looked back, saw everything she'd been afraid to hope for in his eyes. "Yeah," she said. "We're staying." "Good." Emma grinned. "Because I already drew you in all my pictures." She held up her latest masterpiece, 3 figures holding hands under a sun. But this time, the biggest figure had a label. In Emma's careful 4-year-old handwriting, it said, "Dante." Not Mr. Dante, just Dante. Like family. Isabel had spent most of her life believing that surviving meant doing it alone. That asking for help was admitting defeat. That trusting someone meant giving them power to destroy you. She'd been wrong about all of it. Survival isn't about being strong enough to carry everything yourself. It's about being brave enough to let someone else help carry the weight when your arms get tired. And trust? Trust isn't built in grand gestures or perfect moments. It's built in the small things. In someone kneeling to a child's level and saying, "Being careful is smart." In someone financing therapy without being asked. In someone staying when you give them every reason to leave. Dante had taught her that strength looks different than she thought. That the bravest thing you can do isn't standing alone. It's standing together. And Emma? Emma learned that not all big men yell, that not all powerful men hurt, that sometimes the person who looks the most dangerous is actually the safest place to land. Maybe that's what all of us need to remember. That the people who save us aren't always the ones we expected. That family isn't always blood. And that second chances aren't just for the broken or the scared. They're for everyone brave enough to try again.